Good morning, stamping friends. Here we are at our Facebook Live for the week. I am so excited to be here with you. I am going to start out, this is Angie Leach, by the way, Angie with TooCoolStamping.com. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today we are going to talk about floating images. You may have seen many people try this floating, it's called floating frame technique, floating images technique. It's essentially something that uses the awesome press and seal, Glad press and seal. I know it's upside down and backwards, but it's something that's really popular right now and people are going crazy over it. In fact, when I was listening to some people talk about the onstage event that happened over the weekend in Auckland, New Zealand, and some demonstrators that came there for the event were excited to find press and seal there because they didn't have it in their country. And so all of the press and seal in New Zealand was being, or at least in Auckland, was being all purchased up because of this awesome technique. So we're going to talk about that today. I wanted to, first of all, let's talk about every week I give a little prize away. So today we're giving away a package of basic pearl jewels. These are awesome. And we're going to be using lots of them on our project today. So I'm going to give those away. Now we're going to do it a little differently. Today I want you to share with me what item from the retiring list are you most sad that's going to be gone? Which one are you going to miss the most? There are several things on this list that I am sad about. One of the biggest ones is artisan pearls. I love artisan pearls, and that's why it was kind of like a shout out to pearls today, just basic pearls, because those are going to be carrying over, but the artisan pearls are going to be gone. So fortunately, we'll be able to use our Stampin' Blends, and we can make these pearls any color we want, so that'll be good. So have you looked at the retiring list? What is on there that you're sad about? What are you going to miss? I just wanted to point out I have the link to the retiring list on my blog, TooCoolStamping.com. You can find it there, print it out. There's a retiring list for the annual catalog as well as the occasions catalog. And if you hit me on the first day with it, if you downloaded that on the first day, I encourage you to go back and get the updated list. The first day they did not highlight which clear mount and wood mount stamps would be carrying over into the new catalog. Now remember, all of the wood mount stamps and clear mount stamps are all being discontinued. We're not going to have those anymore. Clear mount has morphed into cling mount, which is a much better option that actually sticks on the block. So that is a really awesome thing. Also, the wood mount stamps have kind of lost their popularity over the years with the new photopolymer. So they are discontinuing the wood mount stamp. So all of those will be discontinued. So when you see that on the retiring list, you will know that all the wood is gone, all the clear is gone. But when you're looking at the actual list, you can see some are highlighted here. Those highlighted ones are actually clear mount or wood mount stamps that are carrying over to the new book, just in the cling mount style. Excuse me. So the very first day, they did not have those indicated, and there wasn't a way to see which stamps were carrying over. So everyone thought, oh my goodness, everything is being retired. There's no stamps that are carrying over, but that's not true. Go back. I have a current updated list now with the highlighted, anything highlighted in gray. It also will have an asterisk next to the name of the stamp set, and all of those will be carrying over. There's actually, I also have a printed list, so if you're interested, there's actually 42 different stamp sets that are carrying over. Excuse me. So lots of things are going to be still around. Lots of your favorites are still going to be here. So one of those we're going to be using today is Healing Hugs, and that is carrying over. So I'll show you about that. I did want to ask you, I know I'm going to have several people watching this, and I wanted your feedback. In the past, I have done a retiring list highlighting type of a video because it's a long list. It's 10 pages. and you kind of have to go back and forth with your handy highlighter and mark which ones are going to be retired. Would it be helpful for me to go through the whole book and share with you, you know, kind of page by page, which ones are retiring, and that way you can just flip and listen to me and I can tell you which ones to mark. If that is a helpful thing for you, I'll be happy to spend some time and do a quick video on that. Just because there's a lot of things and it's 10 full pages, and if that would help you, I would be happy to spend time with that. So let me know if you're interested in that, and I will, I can put that together. If we don't get a lot of interest, well, then I won't even bother. But I thought maybe people might like that. So good morning to everyone who is here with us this morning. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. So we were talking about the retiring list. Today we're giving away some pearls. And if you put in the comment section which item that's retiring is going to be the one you'll miss the most, that is how you can enter to win the pearls today. So put that in there. So today, like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the floating images or the floating frame technique. A couple of days ago, I posted on my blog it was one project sheet, and it was a project sheet that was shared to me by Lee Conray. And she had a really nice, concise, step-by-step tutorial on how to do the floating image technique with the floating frame technique. And she was using healing hugs, and I thought that I wanted to start with that because it's kind of a new technique for me. I've never tried it. I've never had Glad press and seal before. Have you guys tried this? I'm thinking this is some awesome stuff. I'm gonna have to use this in my kitchen. No one told me about this. Anyway, so I'm excited on a couple of levels, 2 cool levels. So anyway, we're going to be talking about that technique, and then I am going to show you 2 ways that you can do it. And really, we should just get started. I think I have covered everything I wanted to cover now. Good morning, everybody. I see people are starting to join us. So I'm going to flip the camera down, and we can get started with our projects today. So hold on a moment. Okay, and get some light on the subject here. Get my cords out of the way so we can see what's happening. Okay, just adjust this one more time. There we go. Sorry, everyone's on a roller coaster ride. Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me all right. So today we're going to talk about the floating frame technique. We're going to use the beautiful Healing Hugs stamp set. I just got this, and I was, at first when I looked at that retiring list and I didn't know that there were things that were carrying over, I saw this on there and I was so sad because I just bought it. But I love it, and it is carrying over. I love it because it's distinctive stamps, which means you get that beautiful dot pattern on there. It makes it like photo dot pattern, so it really has a lovely, lovely image that is stamped. And you'll see what I mean in a minute when we start to do our projects. But this is a beautiful stamp set, and we're going to start out today, and we're just going to start stamping with that stamp set. That beautiful rose image is gorgeous. I don't like that that has a horrible glare. Let's see if that side's better. A little bit. So we're going to start with some Highland Heather, and we're just going to lightly tap and then stamp. That is beautiful. I have two ink pads here. One's a little more inked up than the other, so I wanted to see which one was a little better. So this is definitely the one that's a little more juicy, and I want to show you, and hopefully you can see the difference. This one has a lot of detail. This one kind of has more of a blobby, too much ink. You can't see all of the fine detail in that. I don't know if that's picking it up very well on the camera, but I've talked to you about a little trick that you can do with distinctive stamps especially. It's easy to get too much ink on the stamp and not get the best results. So what I like to do in that case, I have a dedicated bone folder that's going to get all stained up on the end, but I'm going to just press the ink out of the way. Just kind of move it around. So instead of using a paper towel and sopping up the ink and wasting it, we're just going to move it out of the way. Can you see how it's lightened up there? Then we're going to go back and stamp that same image. And look at the difference. You can really see the details now on the one that has a little bit less ink. So if you're having a problem like this where it's nice and blobby, we don't like that. Just use your bone folder, move that ink out of the way, and then you can wipe your bone folder off. Wipe it off right away so you don't, contaminate another ink pad with it. But it will stain because this is real bone. It's called a bone folder because it is real bone. A lot of times a bone folder is called a bone folder, but it's made out of plastic. And when you're constantly using it for creasing, it starts to kind of disintegrate and warp on the end unless it's made out of real bone. So Stampin' Up! Always has high quality products like that. So I really love that. So we're going to finish up. I'm going to stamp 5 of these. We're not going to use this one. That's a bad one. And then we're going to also stamp the leaf image from the Healing Hugs. This is so pretty. Wait till you see this leaf image. And we're going to stamp 5 of these as well. Hopefully I still have some room here. Okay, let me show you that up close. This leaf image blows me away. I love it. Check out the detail. That's what distinctive stamps are. They're just so detailed. So we have 5 each of the flowers and 5 each of the leaf images. And then I'm going to say an awful word, an awful F word, fussy cutting. So for this stamp set in particular, for this technique, you will have to do some fussy cutting around all of the flowers. They're not a hard shape. And the leaves, not a difficult shape to cut out. But there are no framelits with this set. So sometimes we have to do that. And I loved what this looked like, this particular stamp set for this technique. Now let me show you a little fussy cutting tip that I learned years ago from Mary Fish, and it has saved my fingers so much. A lot of times when people are cutting, they move the scissors around. So when they're going around, they're cutting around this way and they're moving the scissors. If you just kind of tuck your elbow into your side to stabilize your hand and keep those points in one position and move your piece around, it's actually going to help you make a cleaner, a smoother cut as you go around those curves. So you can see I'm keeping my blades in the same spot, and then I'm kind of like driving it around the curves. And when I found this tip, I thought, oh my gosh, it was a game changer for me. So I didn't know if people knew that. It makes it easy because all you're doing is this motion really slowly as you turn. And it might seem a little awkward at first, but I promise once you get the hang of it, it's going to save you a lot of headaches because you're not doing a lot of bending your wrist around, especially if you have, arthritis or any kind of wrist issues. I get a ganglion cyst on my wrist, and it just causes a lot of pain. So that's going to help you do cutting when you're doing fussy cutting. So hopefully that helps you with that. Okay, if you want to use images that have framelits, that's a great idea. That way you don't have to do a lot of fussy cutting. And I'll show you a project later that uses that. So I've already cut out all those images. So I have all my 5 leaves. I've already have my 5 flowers here. And we're going to start out with a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of Whisper White. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start laying some of these flowers out. And let's see. There we go. So we're just kind of make them go in all over. We're going to make a random background here. Then I'm going to tuck my leaves in here. So put those in here as well. And maybe put this one here. And I don't really want them to touch. Let's put this one over here. I'm running out of room here. This one down here. So we're just making a nice, pretty background. And that is our final one. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let me just tuck that under. Okay, so this is going to be our background. Then we're going to use this awesome press and seal. Again, am I the only person who doesn't know about press and seal as an actual kitchen storage helper? This stuff is awesome. Apparently, you can put it on any kind of bowl. You guys probably already know this, but I did not know. But anyway, it's really awesome. It's just a little tacky when you pull it out, but then when you press it down on something, it sticks really well. So we're going to take a little bit of this, tear that off. I already have a piece. I kind of cut it in half, so I wasn't using the whole piece. And then I'm going to lay that right down over all the flowers here and just lightly press down. Now I want to press a little harder on the white because I want to make sure that all of these flowers are going to stick on this background so that I can manipulate them a little bit. And then the rest of it, we're just going to tap lightly. Don't push down really hard or you might actually ruin the images. I learned that the hard way. So now I love how we can just pick this up now. We don't have to be worried that any of the images are going to fall off. And we're going to go around and trim all of the edges here. So just really quickly trim the edges right flush against the background. And that press and seal is going to keep all of it in place for us. Okay. Then when we flip it over, we have a really pretty background. And everything is still nice and in place. Now, the fun part of the floating image technique is that now you can take this layer, kind of make sure that they're nice and stuck there on the press and seal because you want the whole layer to come up. And you're going to flip it over. And this is the magic of it because it keeps it all in one space, all in one place. So everything that you just took time to put into place, you could do this without the press and seal. It just would take you a little bit longer because you'd have to kind of reconfigure everything as you go, lay it out as you go. So this is nice that you can kind of do it ahead. Keeps it all in one place. So we're using a ton of dimensionals on here. You guys know how much I love dimensionals. So this technique is right up my alley. So put that everywhere. Now if you're using smaller images, it might be helpful to use some of the mini dimensionals, or you could even cut along the edge and get some custom little slivers off of the border piece. So the mini dimensionals work great for little tiny areas. All right, I think we're done pretty good here. Let me add one more right here. Okay, so there is our dimensionals, and now we're just going to take some time and get the backings off. This is like the hardest part of the whole thing. Well, aside from fussy cutting, if you don't like fussy cutting. But the effect that you get when you are done is so completely awesome that it's worth it. How many dimensionals did I put on there? That should be our next contest. So while I'm doing this, one of the reasons I changed up how I did my contest today is because I've had some friends who do Facebook Lives, and they have had their live taken off because they have asked people to comment or share. And apparently they're cracking down on that. They don't want people to be doing that. So we don't need to do that. We're just gonna give away anybody who says what they're gonna miss most with the retiring list. Okay, so here's our piece. Now we could go down like this on top of it. I actually found that it's a little bit easier to just lay that because that's so flexible. And then you can just line up one side. Woo, it's so sticky. Line up one side and then lay it over the top. And then now we have that all on the background and it's all popped up. And now it's just a matter of taking off that press and seal. Now, if you pressed a little too hard, like I mentioned earlier, it might pull up your images a little bit. So be very careful. I also found that if you pull back like this, it tends to peel. If you're gonna have a problem like that, it'll happen more if you pull back. I found that if you just kind of pull and gently lift this way, it seems to release a little bit better if you're concerned with pulling up the images. So we'll pull all of that off, and ta-da, then we get this awesome background that has all these floating images. So like I said, you could do all this by hand, but I love that it allows you to pop it. It allows you to arrange everything and then trim everything flush and makes it so easy to add. Okay, now if you have any maybe you didn't get that completely lined up. If you kind of look in the back here, I have a few pieces here that are not quite lined up. That's all right. You can just kind of trim that up a little bit if you want to. This one actually turned out not too bad. I've had some that were really off and I've had to kind of clean it up, but it's not hard to clean up. All right, so next we are going to mount that on some Highland Heather. This is, actually, I think I gave you the wrong dimensions on this. I think it's 3 3/4 by 5 because we do have a backing here that is 4 by 5 1/4. Sorry about that. So then we can, we can just add this over the top. And we're going to put it on a gorgeous grape card base. I love how that's really going to make it pop so beautifully. And look at that. Look at that. I love it. Okay, we're going to finish up with a sentiment. So I have a, I think it's 3 1/4 by 1 piece right here. We're going to use the thank you very much sentiment. It comes from the Butterfly Gala stamp set. And we're going to ink it up in Old Olive. So I'm just going to add that right here. And it's always better when you're using photopolymer to use a piercing mat underneath. That always helps the ink transfer a little bit better. And then I'm going to, let's see, where do I want to put that? Kind of want it right there. Actually, I think I'm going to make this a little bit shorter. And then I'm just going to cut a banner right here. So remember, you go to the center. Let me get this little piece off. There we go. To cut a banner, a fishtail cut, you're going to cut to the center and then go corner to center and corner to center. That gives you a nice even banner. Ooh, I'm really liking how that looks. We'll just add that with some snail adhesive over the top. And we'll do it flush to the side there. Now, you know what we need? A little bit of bling at the end. You can't not put something a little shiny or sparkly on there. So I'm going to get out my basic pearls. Again, that's what we're giving away today. Just comment what item you're going to be sad to see retire. And oh, I forgot to say, you need to do that by Friday, April 19th at noon. So that's the cutoff point for the basic pearls. So I'm just going to add these in here randomly to fill up these blank spaces. And I'm going to use all kinds of different sizes. This, to me, well, along with the floating part, but this really makes the card. I love that. I don't usually go crazy with pearls. I mean, if it's a class card, it's just like, you don't need to have a lot of pearls on a lot of things. But this one really makes it. And I'm using the paper piercer. It's just a preference. There's the take your pick tool that you could also use. It has like a little spatula that helps you place little items like this onto your card. That works very, very well. But I love the paper piercer. Unfortunately, it's a retiring item. So I purchased a lot of extra already just because I love to have them with all my elements. So there we go. Look at all those pearls. I just love how that turned out. So there is my Healing Hugs floating image card. You can see the floating. I love how that turned out. And then I did another version earlier, and this time I used Pool Party Pear Pizzazz, and then I layered it onto Pear Pizzazz and Mossy Meadow card base and a Mossy Meadow sentiment. So those are my two floating frame cards. What do you think? Do you like it? Do you like this technique? Kind of cool, huh? All right, I'm going to show you one more little card. This time we're going to use the rectangle stitched framelits. And we've been using those a lot lately because I love them and I love the look that they give. So this time I used the same Healing Hugs and I did the same basic, the basic part that we did before, where you're layering them all on first, then you put your press and seal down, press that down, then trim around the edges, make those nice and flush. And then this time, I ran it through the Big Shot using the rectangle stitched framelits. So I put that in the center, ran it through the Big Shot, and now I have two pieces, whoops, I have two pieces here that I can use with the press and seal. And this is where the press and seal really, really comes in handy, because you get these beautiful edges for a frame that would be nearly impossible to do if you were just going to be putting them down with dimensionals without the press and seal. Now, one thing like I mentioned earlier, when you're taking the press and seal off of something that you ran through the Big Shot, it might peel up your image just a tiny bit. So just that extra pressure really activates that press and seal. So you need to be very careful. Actually, I don't want to do that yet. What am I doing? Oh, yes, I do. Yeah. Sorry, I'm losing losing track of what step I'm on in the step-by-step. Let's do this first. We don't want to take it off the image. We'll do that in a minute. First, we need to take it off the background and put our dimensionals on. There we go. So we pulled that off. I got ahead of myself. So here's our frame. Again, we're going to add a ton of dimensionals. So bear with me as, whoops, that press and seal, it's sticky. So bear with me as I put these on. But you are gonna love the outcome of this one, because just with that rectangle stitched framelets, it just really makes it awesome. So don't forget that the, as far as the retired list, don't forget that the framelets, and the thinlets and the edgelets, all those are being discontinued because we're no longer going to be carrying the Big Shot. Did you hear this news? So for this coming catalog, coming out June 4th, there will be no die cutting machine. And Stampin' Up, it's because Stampin' Up is actually coming up with their own die cutting system, and we're going to have some new styles of dies to go with it. So basically they're ending their partnership with Sizzix so that they can go straight to the manufacturer and have a lot more freedom to have innovative products and hopefully take less time for things to, they may not be in back order as long, so have a little bit more control over all of that. So in the meantime, they're going to be working on this new die cutting system, and we'll have to wait for that. However, the new dies are going to be, there are a great selection of new dies available in the catalog coming up, which I just saw this week, and if you would like to see it, you need to be a demonstrator and join my team. You can get a sneak peek of what's coming in the catalog and see all the new awesome stuff that's coming, and you'll be able to order it starting May 2nd for about a month before people, just regular customers, can order it. So anyway, little side note, but in that catalog we have brand new dies, new style, and I'll talk more about that on my Too Cool Stamping blog as we get closer to the new catalog and the actual ordering process. But I did want to note that on the retiring list you'll see many dies that are on there that are leaving, and if they're not on the retiring list, it does mean that they're carrying over. They'll just be in the new style of die. And the way that works is they're going to be, they'll have all the old style in their inventory until that inventory is depleted, and then once it's depleted, you'll get the new style, but you won't get the new style until the new catalog. So if the, for example, the Stitched Shapes framelets, very popular framelets, though the old style of inventory, old style die inventory has been depleted already. So we have to wait. Even though that is carrying over, we're going to have to wait until the new catalog. So just a little gap in availability, and then you'll get the new style that will be able to be shipped. So again, I have all my dimensional backings off. You can try to do it this way. I thought it was much easier to just keep it down on the table and then go back with your background piece and line that up as best that you can. And it's a little bit crooked here. Let's see if I can save it. Got to make sure that your frame is lined up well. That's pretty good. Not too bad. Anyway, make sure it's nice and square when it's on the table. That's going to be helpful. Now when you're pulling that up, you want to make sure that you're pulling, you don't want to pull back. You want to kind of just pull this way. It loosens it up, and it should come off of those images pretty well. You might have a few little sticky spots. Just do it really carefully. it wouldn't necessarily be an issue, except we have run it through the Big Shot, so it has had a lot of pressure on there, and that's what activates it. So I had a little bit come off there. Whoops, I forgot some of my backings. That won't stick without the backing paper off. Okay. Stick that down, pull that up. Whoops, see, I pulled it this way and it came right up. So see how you need to just kind of pull it, almost like if you're familiar with Command adhesive strips, and you have to pull those to release them from the wall. It's kind of like that. If you pull it, it's going to help release it a little bit. Almost done. This technique takes a little bit of extra time. It's definitely not a simple technique, but it's so beautiful when you take the time to get it done. Okay, I have a little extra piece here for some reason, so we're going to chop that off. My frame's a little bit cockeyed, but I think it's still turned out pretty good. So next we're going to add that to our Poppy Parade card base. And I'm just going to use a little bit of snail. And this one is actually the card base that I put the frame on. This is the one that's actually 4 by 5 1/4. Let's see. I do want it to do it that way, I think. And then I'm going to stamp a little sentiment. And this one is, it's called You Are the sentiment is You Are the Best. And it's from A Big Thank You, which is retiring. So this is your last chance to get this beautiful set. So many awesome greetings and phrases in there. I love it. I don't think I mentioned, the flowers are actually stamped in Calypso Coral, and the leaves are in Pear Pizzazz. So we're going to stamp again in Calypso Coral for the sentiment. I'm going to stamp that on there. I don't have my piercing mat right here, so hopefully. There we go. And then we're gonna, let's see, I'm gonna put this one down in the middle as a background. Again, I die cut this with the rectangle stitch dies. We'll add that right to the center. And then we'll use a couple of dimensionals on the sentiment and pop that up so it's the same level as the floating images, the floating frame images. And just put that right on top. I'm going to finish it off with a little bow that I made with the sheer Old Olive 1/8 inch ribbon. This will be retiring. Most of the ribbon is retiring, although I did see that they kept more than they usually do. So I'm just going to put that there. And then again, I would go back and put a bunch of pearls in the negative space. And when you're completely done, here's another version that I did using Berry Burst, which is one of the retiring in colors, along with Pear Pizzazz. And I stamped the sentiment also in Berry Burst. Used that same Old Olive ribbon and then added all the little pearls for that one. And this one I took a little better care getting everything all nice and square before I put the paper backing on, so that worked really well. But you'll also see I had to try to make a correction here. I pulled up a lot of, this is how I learned about the press and seal. When you run it through the Big Shot, it does stay on there, but you can see that I pulled up a little bit of the image there, and I used a little bit of a sponge Berry Burst on a sponge dauber and just kind of try to get some of that white out. So you can't really see it when you're just looking at it, but just be very careful when you're pulling that press and seal up. So what do you think? Do you like that look? And which color combination do you like better? Oh, the background is Rich Razzleberry, the card base on that. So Berry Burst and Rich Razzleberry go so well together. I love that. So that is the floating frame card. Now I tried this technique with the first Frost stamp set because it had framelets. I wanted to try something that was not fussy cutting because I was doing a lot of fussy cutting getting ready for these projects. So I tried one that was using framelets to see if it was easier. And so here is what I came up with the first Frost. And it's on a Highland Heather card base. We have a 4 by 5 1/4 background matte layer in Gorgeous Grape. And then I stamped all the images in Berry Burst, Gorgeous Grape, Flirty Flamingo, and this was Pool Party. So that's what all of those in. And so I stamped them and cut them out with the Frosted Floral framelets. Now I can't remember the name of them. But anyway, the thing I will say about this, yes, it was easier because it was framelets that you didn't have to do all the fussy cutting. I think I would still like to do some flowers that are a little bit bigger. These were very small, so when you pulled off the press and seal, there was a lot of little tiny edges and corners that really stuck a lot more than I would have wanted, so you had to be very, very careful. And you had a lot of little tiny pieces that I had to cut a mini dimensional in half in order to get that on there. So while I do love how it looks, and the pop-up part, the floating part is just absolutely gorgeous. It was a lot more detailed and definitely more advanced, I think, with the smaller shape. So if you're going to start out, I really would, I think I really would start with something that was kind of bigger, even if you have to fussy cut, but if you can find some images that are die cut, that would be great too. But start out just trying the background as a whole. Then try to do the frames. That way you'll have an idea of how the process works, because like you saw with me, you have to go in a certain order and sometimes you forget. So do the solid one first, kind of get yourself used to the whole thing, then try the frame, and then if you really want to get a little more detailed, you can try something like this. Now this is the same style card. I didn't use the Stitched Shapes framelets. That's something that I just did it a little bit differently on this one, but I used Gorgeous Grape for that sentiment. And then I took that middle part that I die cut out, and I made this card using a Whisper White background and popped that up, added those beautiful pearls in between. I do love how this one really pops to me. And this thank you is also from that same A Big Thank You. And I love how that turned out. The tulle ribbon, I'm so excited. That ribbon is staying in the new catalog. So I used that for the side here and a little bow here just to add a little more texture. So hopefully you guys love that. I hope that you do. What was did I have another one that I was going to show you? Oh, I have one more. I forgot to show you the other card of this one. So this is the one that I started with, and then the center one I did with Powder Pink. That's another of the Retiring In colors. I did a Whisper White stitched, rectangle stitched framelit behind, and then pop that up again. This was the Berry Burst center and the Pear Pizzazz for the leaves. I really love how this one turned out. So, so pretty. And this one I just did a little sentiment. And for this one, my sentiment comes from one of my favorite stamp sets, my surprisingly favorite stamp sets from the Occasion catalog. And it has that really cool sentiment. This one will also be retiring. So that one is only available while supplies last. And actually, I don't think I mentioned earlier, but everything that's in the retiring list while supplies last, except stamp sets, because Stampin' Up! Manufactures those. those are guaranteed through May 24th. So they extend that guarantee a little bit longer, since they will be able to fill back orders very quickly since they make those. So you really have until May 24th to have a guaranteed shot at any of these stamp sets that are retiring, like the Amazing Life or the A Big Thank You. So, or any of the stamp sets. All right. I think that's all for today. Hopefully you guys had a lot of fun with all of these awesome, two cool projects. I love when I can do two cool cards out of one technique. I mean, that's fabulous. And remember to let me know which retired product you're going to miss most. That will, I'll pick a name tomorrow at noon. So Friday, April 19th at noon, I'll pick a winner for that. Also, don't forget, if you're going to be ordering any of the retiring product, you can go to my website, toocoolstamping.com, hit the Shop Now button, and that'll get you to my online store. And if you do place an order of $50 or more in April, I'm going to send you a couple of collections of project sheets. So you'll get 7 Needlepoint Nook project sheets and 8 Gingham Gala project sheets. So that's my little gift to you this month when you place a $50 order. You do have to use the host code on the shopping cart page, N4DTRBY3, and that is always on my toocoolstamping.com blog, so you can always find that host code for whatever free gift that I'm giving away that month. All right, everybody, if you have any questions or anything you really liked about today's episode, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. Comment on this page. Share with your friends if you want. And I will see you next time, next Thursday, 9 a.m. for our Too Cool Stamping Facebook Live. Until then, this is Angie. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.